March 12, 1960, 11:47 p.m. Special Agent Robert McKinley walked out of FBI headquarters in Lower Manhattan, went straight to his supervisor's office and dropped an envelope on the desk. Inside, his resignation letter. Effective immediately. His supervisor looked up, confused. "McKinley, what the hell is this?" McKinley's hands were shaking. "I can't do this anymore. I just spent 8 hours interrogating a man who's smarter than everyone in this building combined. And you want to know the worst part? He's right. About everything." The man McKinley had been interrogating was Bumpy Johnson, and what happened in that room over 8 hours didn't just break a federal agent, it exposed a system. This is the story of the interrogation that changed nothing and everything. To understand what happened on March 12, 1960, you need to understand what the FBI was doing in 1960. COINTELPRO, Counterintelligence Program. Officially, it was designed to infiltrate and disrupt organizations deemed threats to national security. Unofficially, it was a weapon against the civil rights movement. Martin Luther King Jr. was being wiretapped. Malcolm X was being followed. The Black Panthers would soon be targeted, and anyone connected to these movements became a person of interest. Bumpy Johnson's name had been in FBI files since 1952. Organized crime, racketeering, associates with known mobsters. But in 1960, something changed. Bumpy started meeting regularly with Malcolm X. They'd sit in Small's Paradise, talking for hours. The FBI didn't know what they were discussing, but they were terrified it was revolution. So they made a decision: bring Bumpy in, squeeze him, make him talk. March 12, 1960, 8 a.m. 2 federal agents knocked on Bumpy Johnson's door at his apartment on Edgecombe Avenue. Bumpy answered in a robe, coffee in hand, like he'd been expecting them. "Gentlemen, you're early." Special Agent Robert McKinley showed his badge. "Mr. Johnson, we need you to come with us. We have questions regarding your association with certain individuals." Bumpy took a sip of his coffee. "Am I under arrest?" "No, sir. We're just asking for cooperation." Bumpy smiled. "Then I'll need 10 minutes to get dressed. You can wait in the hall." When Bumpy emerged, he was wearing a tailored gray suit, crisp white shirt, polished shoes. He looked like a lawyer, not a gangster. He carried nothing. No briefcase, no papers, just himself. "Shall we go?" The agents drove him to 200 East 69th Street, FBI New York field office. They walked him through security, past dozens of agents staring, up an elevator to the 4th floor, and into interview room C. A small room. 1 table, 3 chairs, one-way mirror, a tape recorder on the table already running. Waiting inside, Special Agent McKinley and Special Agent Thomas Brennan. Brennan was the lead, 15 years with the Bureau, specializing in organized crime. He'd broken Chicago mobsters, Detroit enforcers, Boston crews. He thought Bumpy Johnson would be easy. He was wrong. Bumpy sat down slowly, adjusted his cuffs, folded his hands on the table. He looked at the tape recorder, then at Brennan. "You're recording. Good. I want evidence of this conversation, too." Brennan leaned back. "Mr. Johnson, do you know why you're here? I assume you're going to tell me. You've been meeting regularly with Malcolm Little, also known as Malcolm X." Bumpy didn't blink. "Malcolm X is his name, not an alias. And yes, we meet. He's a friend who preaches violence against the United States government." Bumpy tilted his head slightly. "Agent Brennan, have you ever actually listened to Malcolm speak? Or do you just read the reports your informants write?" Brennan's jaw tightened. "We have extensive surveillance on Malcolm X. We know exactly what he says." "Then you know he preaches self-defense, not violence. There's a difference, unless you believe black people defending themselves is violence." The room went quiet. McKinley shifted in his seat. Brennan changed tactics. "Mr. Johnson, you run an illegal gambling operation in Harlem, the numbers racket. You profit off poor people." Bumpy nodded. "I do, just like the state of New York will legalize the lottery in 7 years and do the exact same thing, except they'll call it economic development." "That's not the same." "Why? Because you'll get a cut?" Brennan slammed his hand on the table. "You're a criminal, Johnson. You've been arrested 14 times. Bumpy didn't flinch. "Arrested, not convicted. 14 times your colleagues have tried to make charges stick. 14 times they've failed. Either I'm very good or your system is very bad at its job." McKinley jumped in, trying to de-escalate. "Mr. Johnson, we're not here to debate the legal system. We're here to understand your relationship with Malcolm X. What do you discuss when you meet?" Bumpy looked at McKinley, saw something different in his eyes. Younger, less sure. "We talk about books, philosophy, Harlem, The future. He tells me about his pilgrimage to Mecca. I tell him about running a community that the government abandoned. We talk like two men who care about the same people. Do you discuss overthrowing the government? Brennan asked. Bumpy laughed. Actually laughed. Agent Brennan, if Malcolm and I were planning a revolution, do you think we'd do it in a public restaurant with your informants 3 tables away? Brennan's face flushed. Bumpy had just confirmed the FBI had planted informants, and he'd known the whole time. We're aware of your informants, Bumpy continued calmly. Jerome, the busboy, paid $50 a week. Angela, the waitress, $75. The man who pretends to be drunk at the bar every Friday. I don't know his real name, but he's terrible at acting. You should train them better. The interrogation had been going for 2 hours. Brennan and McKinley had gotten nothing. Worse, Bumpy was dismantling them piece by piece. Brennan stood up. I need a break. He walked out, left McKinley alone with Bumpy. The room was silent for a moment. Then Bumpy spoke. How long have you been with the Bureau? McKinley hesitated. 4 years. You believe in what you're doing? McKinley met his eyes. I believe in protecting this country. Bumpy nodded slowly. From what? From me? From Malcolm? From black people who want to be treated like human beings? From people who want to disrupt the social order? Bumpy leaned forward. Agent McKinley, let me tell you about social order. In Harlem, a black child goes to a school with no heat in the winter. The city won't fix it because the budget doesn't cover black neighborhoods. That child gets sick. The hospital charges her family $200 they don't have. The father works 2 jobs and still can't pay. So the family loses their home. That's your social order. I'm not disrupting it. I'm surviving it. McKinley looked down at his notes, said nothing. Bumpy continued. You think I'm the enemy because I run numbers, but every week the NYPD shakes down black businesses for protection money, legal extortion. Where's your investigation into that? You think Malcolm is dangerous because he says black people should defend themselves, but last year 3 black men were beaten to death by police in this city. No arrests, no investigation. Where's your outrage about that? Brennan came back into the room. He'd regrouped. New strategy. Let's talk about your finances, Mr. Johnson. You make approximately $50,000 a year from illegal gambling. Bumpy shrugged. If you say so. Where does that money go? Living expenses, my wife, my community. Brennan pulled out a folder. We've been watching your bank accounts. You deposit maybe $10,000 a year. Where's the other $40,000? Bumpy smiled. I'm a generous tipper. You're laundering money. Prove it. Brennan opened the folder. Inside, surveillance photos. Bumpy handing envelopes to people. Bumpy entering schools. Bumpy meeting with families. What are you giving these people? Bumpy looked at the photos. His face didn't change. Hope. Something you wouldn't understand. We can charge you with tax evasion, money laundering, racketeering. Bumpy leaned back. Then do it. Arrest me. But we both know you won't. Because this isn't about me. This is about Malcolm. And you can't arrest him for being right. So you're trying to intimidate the people around him. It's pathetic. Hour 5. Brennan was losing control. His questions became repetitive. Aggressive. Desperate. Do you fund Malcolm X's organization? No. Do you provide security for him? I provide friendship. If that scares you, that's your problem. Are you planning any coordinated actions with him? Yes, we're planning to keep existing, keep thriving, keep refusing to bow to people like you. Hour 6. McKinley took over the questioning. His approach was different, softer. Mr. Johnson, help me understand. You're an intelligent man. You could have done anything with your life. Why crime? Bumpy considered the question. Agent McKinley, I was born in South Carolina in 1905. You know what options a black boy had in 1905? Sharecropping or prison. Those were the choices. I moved to Harlem in 1919. You know what options a black teenager had in Harlem in 1919? Street sweeping for $3 a week, or the numbers racket. I chose survival. I chose power, because power is the only thing that protects people like me from people like you. But you hurt people. I've never hurt anyone who didn't try to hurt me first. Can you say the same about your agency? McKinley didn't answer. Bumpy pressed on. Your COINTELPRO program. You're not investigating criminals. You're targeting activists, people fighting for voting rights, for desegregation, for basic human dignity. And you're using the law as a weapon against them. So tell me, Agent McKinley, who's really hurting people here? Hour 7. Brennan made one last attempt. Mr. Johnson, if you cooperate, we can make things easier for you. Reduce surveillance. Drop certain investigations. Bumpy's eyes went cold. You're offering me a deal. I'm offering you an opportunity to betray Malcolm, to help your country. Bumpy stood up. Let me be very clear, Agent Brennan. I will never, under any circumstances, give you information about Malcolm X. Not for money, not for immunity, not for freedom, because unlike you, I understand what loyalty means. Malcolm is trying to save Black America from the system you represent, and I will die before I help you stop him. Brennan stood too. Sit down, Johnson. We're not done. Yes, we are. You have no charges, no evidence, no leverage. Either arrest me or I'm walking out that door. Brennan looked at McKinley. McKinley looked at the tape recorder. Neither moved. Bumpy walked to the door, opened it, turned back. One more thing. You want to know what Malcolm and I talk about in those meetings? We talk about men like you, men who are so afraid of change that they'd rather destroy the country than see it evolve. We talk about how systems built on oppression always eat themselves eventually. And we talk about how we'll still be standing when your COINTELPRO files are declassified and the whole world sees what you really are. Bumpy Johnson walked out of FBI headquarters at 4:17 p.m., 8 hours and 17 minutes after he'd arrived. No charges filed, no arrest made, nothing. He walked 3 blocks, flagged down a cab, and went home. The agent stayed in that room for another hour, just sitting, processing what had happened. At 11:47 p.m., Robert McKinley submitted his resignation. In his letter, he wrote, I joined the FBI to protect innocent people from dangerous criminals. Today I realized I've been doing the opposite. The man I interrogated for 8 hours has done more for his community than I've done in my entire career. And the organization I work for is targeting him not because he's dangerous, but because he refuses to be controlled. I can't be part of this anymore. McKinley's resignation was rejected. His supervisor told him to take a week off and think about it. McKinley took the week. Then he came back and submitted the letter again. This time it was accepted. He left the FBI in April 1960. 15 years later, when COINTELPRO was exposed to the public, McKinley gave testimony to Congress about the abuses he'd witnessed. He specifically mentioned the Bumpy Johnson interrogation as the moment he knew the program was wrong. Thomas Brennan stayed with the FBI for another 20 years, retired in 1980 with full honors, but people who worked with him said he never talked about the Johnson interrogation, never mentioned it, like it hadn't happened. Because admitting what happened in that room would mean admitting he'd been outplayed by the man he was supposed to break. The interrogation tapes still exist, classified, locked in FBI archives, but portions were leaked in 1999. Historians who've heard them say the same thing. Bumpy Johnson's voice never wavers, never rises, never cracks. 8 hours of calm, calculated precision. While 2 trained federal agents slowly unravel, one section of the tape stands out. Hour 7. Right before Bumpy walked out, Brennan asks one final question. Mr. Johnson, do you think you're smarter than the FBI? Bumpy pauses. Then no, Agent Brennan, I think I'm more honest. And in a fight between smart and honest, honest wins. Because smart people can be corrupted, honest people can't. March 13, 1960. The day after the interrogation. Bumpy met Malcolm X at Small's Paradise like always. Malcolm asked how it went. Bumpy smiled. They tried to make me afraid. Instead, I made them question everything they believe. One of them will quit. I could see it in his eyes. Malcolm laughed. You're dangerous, Bumpy, not because of what you do, because of what you make people think. Bumpy raised his glass. To dangerous thoughts. Malcolm raised his. To honest men in dishonest times. If this story of one man dismantling the system with nothing but truth and intelligence inspired you, hit that subscribe button. Drop a like if you believe the most powerful weapon isn't a gun, it's a mind that refuses to be broken. Share this with someone who needs to know that courage isn't about being fearless, it's about being right and refusing to back down. What would you have said in that interrogation room? Let me know in the comments.